What's up, everybody? It's your favorite Bonecrushers, favorite nerd, and today we are looking at Generation Toys Bonecrusher attempt. And isn't that how the guy said it in the Spider-Man movie? Wasn't that how it was? I don't know. Don't quote me. Sorry, this is a day late and a dollar short, so to speak. But sorry about that. But I couldn't put it up Monday because Sunday I was in New Jersey at the New Jersey Collectors Convention. And shout out to those guys; they treated me like a king. And shout out to Realm of Collectors and all those folks that were in there that had a lot of love. And Tyler from Toy Detox, etc., etc. A lot of love in the room. It was a good time. So I wanted to make sure I tip my hat to those folks. But for right now, we're going to talk about this, which is actually on loan to me from Tyler. And you can check him out on, he's 1/3 of the podcast Toy Detox, which is a pretty good show, along with Mickey Brave from Brave's Toy Review and Swage66, who's a true gentleman. And he has, he did a tremendous thing one time for me that I will never forget, that he doesn't even think is that big of a deal, but I will never forget it. He comes with a gun for an accessory, the trailer for an accessory, and then an additional head, you know, paint on there, light piping, which you know I'm not a fan of, but it is what it is. Pretty good face sculpt though, all things considered, and then a little tiny screw to attach it. I'm keeping that in the bag since this is on loan to me. I haven't got mine yet, and whatever. I'm just, you know, the less opportunity I have to lose something, the better. Am I right? That guy knows what I'm talking about. Let's continue. This thing right here is okay. It rolls. It feels solid. It feels very solid, and I like that. Little plain in the front, and I wish that there was a space here to put a Decepticon symbol on one side. Like, it's going to be tricky. That's going to be tricky, right? But, you know, who's going to have it in this mode anyway, realistically? I think, I'm not sure whether, yeah, this is, okay, so this is all right. It does come with this push down like that to keep it safe, but it can go up, and you have a little smokestack. These just slip into here, and I do find as I'm manipulating it that they have a tendency to come out, but all in all, not terrible engineering, just pointing it out. All the paint is fantastic per usual. That is something I've come to expect from this line. They've done a really good job with that. All the warning stripes, all the silvers, all that kind of stuff is done really well. The trailer, you know, works fine, rolls fine. It's a quarter turn, which is nice. And this opens up. Let me see if I can remember how to do it. Probably can't. And I hope Tyler, there it is. They were joking me yesterday at the con that I was going to break it like a TSC detective, but, you know. And I'm sure you can do all sorts of fun stuff with this, and missiles and the whole bit, and then your hands that we'll, of course, talk about when we get to Devi mode. So all in all, not bad. Not bad at all. We're going to put that to the side. We're going to talk about this a little bit more, just in the sense of the articulation here is really, it's really pretty much non-existent. It doesn't really seem to be working for me. Now it's not mine, so I'm not, you know, I don't mean to be a broken record, but I don't like being super strong-handed with other people's stuff because, truthfully, I don't want to pay for it. You know, I'm paid for my own, so I don't want to pay for it twice. But it is, it is a beautiful thing. We'll do a couple size comparisons. We'll keep him in the middle, and we'll do Tiger Tracks on this side, and we'll do Maketoys on that side. So, you know, point of reference. To go to arm mode, very simple, like that, and then make sure this is pulled down a little bit, and then this all turns, and that, depending on what quarter turn you have it, right, you can get, you know, whichever movement you need to go. So that's obviously backwards, so like that, right? And then this piece flips down here, and that's the connection port, tight ratchet. I'm not going to mess with it. We will, of course, look at it in combine mode, but, you know, fairly straightforward, I think, here. Robot mode will disconnect this and unplug these here. And the instructions have you bend these around here. I don't know why you would do that when you could just pull them around here and not put any stress on that joint. And then flip these pieces up and fold them back on both sides. They unplug. And then just flip this up and out of the way. Take the legs, untab them, and then bring them down. There's a tight joint there. surprisingly tight. Like this. That's for Robert. Rotate the foot around. This is on a swivel here. And there was a piece that fell off. This should just, it plugs back in, I got you. And we'll turn those around this way, I think. I'm not sure. We'll fix it if it's wrong, right? And then fold these down as the heels. This is the same for the other. And then you fold these pieces, which can be a pain, back in so that they plug in. I really do like that piece of engineering. Like I think it's clever, and I think a lot of companies wouldn't have thought it was necessary. They would have just let this sit here and let you deal with it, but they actually gave you something to do with it, so I like that. Alright, so we'll figure out which way is right before we move on. This piece has to flip down, so of course that's wrong. So turn this around so that there's clearance. It's a good way to check to make sure that you're right. It's hard to stay oriented. And we can go ahead and flip these up as well. Just that one, it's only that one. And then rock these down. Well, they're on an accordion double hinge in there, so rock these down and then tab them together. Now we'll start working on all this. This is tabbed into 2 slots there, so untab them and then split this, and then you can rotate both arm sections out. Flip this piece open. This unlocks it from here so that you can accordion this out. Flip this piece up and this piece down, and that should allow you to flip the hand out. It's hard to get up in there, so to speak, but once that's there, then you can fold that piece down, and that locks that in place. You can fold that back down. Then you can do the same for the other side. Flip this piece up, accordion down, and there's some tight joints on this unit, but they're not squeaky or anything. They're just tight, so that's good. Flip this down, hand out, that down, that down. Then we have a series of spinny movements. So spin this down, flip that down rather, spin that around. Spin this one around. Open these up, spin these up, spin these, and then spin that around. You can also, if that doesn't do it for you, you can remove the gun, which we will talk about right here while we're on it. It flips down, the handle flips down, has the silver finish there, black here, otherwise unremarkable. Now we got to deal with these arms where trouble kind of comes into paradise with this guy, but fold this down, and that kind of secures him. And then you might as well plug the arms in to the front here, just to kind of give you an idea of what you're working with. Make sure that this is all, the hand is straight up, all this stuff is to the bottom. Fold this one piece that's connected to here back on itself. Rotate it this darker gray back, and then you can also rotate here, and you fold this back around the shoulder, and then you collapse it. And I think that's right. We'll do it on the other side as well. Spin the arm here, and then rotate this dark gray piece back. Fold this one piece on top of itself, and then collapse all of it back on to the bot. Make sure that the waist is locked in. Epic head reveal, fold that up, fold this back. Lastly, these 2 pieces that we folded up, as a reminder for myself, flip these down and these down. It's just like the other one. And then you can rotate that one piece, it's on its own dark gray piece, around and fold it back up on the back. And that's him. Now I'm going to get him cleaned up, and we're gonna talk about him. So there's a way, of course, you put this on here, and then you do the same quarter turn. You can adjust like that gray piece on a swivel. So, and then you can have him with his bat wings. I don't know why you ever would. It looks ridiculous. The rightful place for this, if you're going to keep him in this mode, is in the box, right? So before we get into the heavy duty of analyzing this guy, let's make sure he can hold his gun. And he can, no problem. So that's a bonus. Alright, there's issues here, ladies and gents, and we're going to get to them. Head, ball joint, red light piping, silver finish on the face, looks good. Limited up, limited down, but it's okay. And then the swivel is intact, but it's hard to kind of work your way around this collection of things that's sort of about his body and person. Moving down to the torso, the silver paint, per usual, looks great. The orange paint, per usual, looks great. Could have used a second coat up in there if we were being picky, but I think it's fine. I don't think it'll be noticed from a shelf at all. All this paint down in here looks good. We have a ratcheted waist swivel. That's good. We have a little bit of an ab crunch, but it is definitely a fake. It's not an intentional ab crunch, but it will work. So, you know, I think that's a bonus more so. Cleans up pretty nice, especially if you, I guess not. I mean, not that it doesn't clean up nice, but there's no way to really hide this. Does look a bit unfinished from the back, which is something I'm starting to notice more and more. I don't know if it's a like a sliding slope kind of trend, but it's just something I'm starting to notice more and more, where things just look empty from the back, because, you know, they know you're going to display it here, so that they don't really bother to give you anything there. Not that they have to, you know. It's just something that's starting to stick in my craw, so to speak. All right, back to the front. Not a lick of paint on the shoulder. The shoulder itself is on a hinge that swings out this way, and then it rotates here. So it's kind of a makeshift universal. And don't worry, if you thought I was gonna skip this, I'm not. Bicep swivel. Once again, this stuff starts kind of beating up against the body, so you lose a little bit of it there. And then, like, I'll tell you, like, you know, for all that kibble, it does give you a good range. You know, because of how much this kind of moves about, you know. Like, that doesn't really impinge that at all. And actually, I think you're getting, no, it's stopping it there. But that's a pretty good range. Wrists. Okay, so yeah, this nice silver paint in there, which is good. You know, like I've said, I've come to expect good paint from this company. Wrist swivel, and you got a hinge, kind of, but I think it's definitely unintentional, and it definitely loses the sculpt and breaks it up. You got all of this sitting up on here, which just, it's, the more you mess with it and look at it, I will agree that the easier it kind of becomes to swallow, so to speak. Oh, I guess you get kind of an upper rotation too, if you want. That's kind of cool. Breaks up the sculpt a bit, but it's cool nonetheless. And I have a problem with this one staying on. But anyway, the more you kind of look at it, the better it kind of gets. I don't know if it's just coming to terms with it or what, but it does bother me less the more I look at it. But good grief, that's a lot of stuff going on up there. It's like a woman's power suit from the 80s. I'm strong, smart, independent, and I don't need no man. Hips are on ball joints, not my favorite, and we have this bit of business here, which very few companies can get right, and this company is not getting it right here. It doesn't stay attached as you manipulate it. I think part of the reason is that the tolerance on the ball joints is so tight, which is a good thing for a ball joint, but is bad for this interlocking mechanism that doesn't interlock strong enough to kind of withstand the tension that's on these ball joints. That's a problem. That's an issue, something to be aware of. The pelvis paint looks good, so no worries there. The ball joint itself, this kind of gets in the way. Now, I'm not sure if this can rotate at all. It can. So if you get that out of the way a bit, you know, then you can get a much wider kind of situation, I guess, range. You get the thigh swivel. Once again, this gets in the way, but as we've proven, you can always rotate it down if you'd like, and then you're good to go. Alrighty. Paint all looks good. The knee, once again, they give you this, which is nice of them, but it does break up the sculpt after, you know, that angle there. So you get just about 90 degrees, which I think is okay. Moving down, toe tilt, and then these heel spurs, and they both are on a swivel, so you get the full ankle rocker, kind of makeshift ankle rocker, which I think also works fine. Black paint on the toes, nice touch. Not necessary, but breaks it up a bit, so I like that. Let's do some size comparisons. So there they are with the rest of their Generation Toy compadres, and I got to tell you, the shoulders don't really bother me when they're all standing together. If I look at it and kind of zero in on it, it bothers me. But just kind of looking at them at a glance, it doesn't bother me and kind of matches the general aesthetic. I think these guys really look good together. I must admit that. And that's saying that only really liking 2 out of 4 so far. Mixmaster and Bonecrusher, I feel like are the weaker links, and Scavenger and Scraper or Scrapper. Well, no need to switch up the third-party names now, right? Scavenger and Scrapper are kind of my favorites of these 4 thus far. And there's the ToyWorld one with them. And I will say this, like the ToyWorld one aesthetically for that G1 looks knocks this Generation Toy one out of the park. But the Generation Toy one is not trying to look G1. Do you know what I mean? It's trying to look this more stylized look. I will say, I can't, I know you guys always ask, I can't tell you which set to go with yet. I can't tell you that until we combine them, right? But I will say that the Generation Toy one feels like it's made better. Like the build feels better, the engineering feels better, the materials feel better. But on a shelf, that aesthetic for that G1 look, that just, you know, it really sinks home with people. It really strikes that nostalgic kind of nerve. You know, the ToyWorld one definitely succeeds in that manner. So just keep all those things in mind, and we'll definitely be looking at the 2 Devies together at the end and talking at length about them. And recently people have been asking about which one is better for a Masterpiece shelf. And I'm going to say that the choice is yours, because I feel like they both kind of work depending on how you view these characters. Like me personally, I don't feel like Bonecrusher should be that much bigger than Prowl. However, I feel like Prowl is a bit small. I feel like Prowl is the mistake, and that they should probably be about Bonecrusher's size. But, you know, Takara kind of sets the standard, right? So in my opinion, Bonecrusher is a bit too big, whereas the Generation Toy one is kind of the better size. However, you can make the argument in your mind that, well, they're construction vehicles, so they should be bigger. And if you want to, you know, sell yourself on that, which is what I'm doing because I'm using them for bot mode, then I think that they work fine. So I don't think that there's a wrong choice here, unless you're going for the Masterpieces have to look like G1, in which case the Generation Toy one really isn't an option for bot mode. So there's just so many factors here. It comes down to like everything else, ladies and gents. It comes down to your personal preference, right? So if you want, you know, if you're okay with them being bigger as long as they look more G1 accurate, go with ToyWorld. If you're okay with them looking more accurate in size, but not necessarily accurate in aesthetics, and you might want to go Generation Toy. But, you know, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're going to talk about it in depth later. You know, this subject gets very heated, right? And it gets heated because people invest hundreds of dollars into this thing and they don't want to be wrong. But here's the thing. If you like it, you've already won. Final thoughts. Let's get the negatives out of the way. So the hips, once again, prove themselves to be problematic. It's hard to get those things right. And it's because it relies on interlocking tension, on the strength of 2 hinges. So you have this variable of all these moving parts that have to fit together, and then the tension between the pieces have to hold it all together. It would be much more appropriate, I think, if there was tabs and slots and numerous interlocking slots. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But either way, it doesn't quite work. Now, I've got a pretty good pose out of him here. However, I am definitely cheating because I've broken up the gray there. Hope you can see it. But on a shelf, who would notice? You know? So, it's one of those things where it's not done right, but it still works, right? The woman's business suit from the 80s. That's going to have to come down to, that's a jagged little pill to have to swallow. And that comes down to whether or not you can handle it. I don't think I could handle it. I can accept it, right? I can accept it, but I can't, I don't know if I can get over it. It's messy. It's a big, kibbly nightmare that is fiddly at best. I think Robert D told me it was fiddly kibbly bits, and he is dead on accurate with that description. So those are all issues. The articulation does get jammed up here and there, but you can usually work your way around it by manipulating different bits of kibble in order to kind of make it happen. So I'm not going to really ping them for that. I'm really going to stick to those hips and that shoulder kibble. However, with the exception of the excess kibble, I do have a real appreciation for this kind of Warbitron aesthetic, you know, this like stylized, updated look of theirs. Like something about it does resonate with me. I can't lie. I wish there was a way that you could remove the shoulder pieces altogether. I'm not sure that there is, and no, it looks like they're screwed on now that I'm looking at it. Looks like they're screwed on right here. So you could remove it if you unscrew it, right? But I wish there was an easier way to kind of take it apart so that you could just lose that bit altogether. But I do like the general look of it. I do like the articulation. I wish that you didn't have to manipulate it as much as you do in order to achieve that articulation, but I do appreciate it at the end of the day. I also think that the paint is stellar. Like, their paint is not excessive, it's sharp, it's concise, and it's well applied. So I tip my hat to them for them. I also like the alt mode, and I think that the arm mode works well. So, you know, this all comes down to how you want this thing, right? I want this guy in Devastator mode, and the reason why is because my other combiners, like Rex, Abominus, and Warbitron's Bruticus, all kind of fit the same kind of size. And I'm going to be getting that Menasor one too. So they all kind of fit that particular scale, and they'll look good together. I think for my purposes, the ToyWorld Devastator is going to be too big. I don't want my ToyWorld Devastator to shadow Predaking. Do you know what I mean? I don't want that. I don't want it to shadow Bruticus. You know, in my head, Bruticus is bigger. You know, but that's just how I see it. It's going to come down to how you see it. You know, it's a lot of personal preference. But if you're worried about materials, don't. If you're worried about paint, don't be. If you're worried about articulation, can you handle moving some pieces around to get it? If you can, don't worry about it. If you can't, well, then there's an issue. Do you like the aesthetic personally? If you do, get it. If not, don't. I like the aesthetic, and I think that it's done well. I just wish that the shoulder pieces would have been done differently. I wish that the hips would have been done differently. But ultimately, neither of those things will impact the combined mode, which is how I will have this guy displayed in my house. So until then, I can't give you a solid recommendation. But he is okay. There's nothing really inherently wrong with him. Everything kind of works. So I hope that gives you some sort of peace of mind. Once again, just to reiterate, when both of these sets are said and done, we're going to have a long talk, you and I. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.